Hello, my darlings. Nice, simple project today. Tiny Human adopted a piece of clothing a couple years ago. Got a small hole in it. There was a weak spot on the other side. It needed pockets. And so, didn't have any matching fabric. So I used the same not matching fabric in multiple spots. So it would work out and look deliberate. And now it has pockets. And no hole. Yay! If you're here for the how to hand sew stretchy fabric in a stretchy way thing, look below. I'll put the timestamp. So, various things. Don't worry, that's just water. There was a hole here, and this one was weakening, so they each got largish patches because we wanted pockets too. And the pockets happened both in the same way. The front of the waterfall cardigan's kind of a weird shape. I measured it out because I was curious and thinking about replicating it. So, like, the back is perfectly boring. There's just 2.5-inch trim around. There's that corner. So that's the neck piece, and then it starts going down. There's a funny little button detail. It's the seam in the middle of the back of the neck. But just 2.5-inch trim around everybody. Perfectly boring back, perfectly boring sleeves. And then this weirdo piece that this is on one side, mirrored on the other side. So there's a lot of fabric to fall down. So obviously you wouldn't necessarily want those measurements depending on how big you're making the thing, but the shape of it. If you're curious and for some reason want to make something that hangs similarly, it's very cozy for autumn. Alright, so we're doing another mending project. There's this, I guess, waterfall cardigan out of really fine, thin cotton jersey. So one of the most annoying materials on earth, but at least it's cotton, right? So it's got a ding or run in the shoulder, and I have this. And I think since it's both lighter and darker, I can make it work. For a patch across each shoulder, and then it needs pockets. It was given to me, but the tiny human has adopted it, and she would very much like it to have pockets. And since I'm adding fabric in one spot, I may as well add it in 3 more. Onward. So I've got a patch over the teeny tiny hole. It might be a little more textured than you want. You might want to spend more time smoothing. I was pretty casual about it. In fact, my approach was cut a much larger rectangle than I need, fold it under quite a lot, and then make fussy little back stitches to keep it in place. I decided to make the first one both along the stripe and along the shoulder seam in hopes of making them more or less match. To the other end, I just fold that under too, and keep going around and back and forth. You end up with something soft and squishy. Can I help? You don't eat the... Why are you so cute? No, eat. No, eat. You're so helpful. Oh, oh, oh. Yeah, you're so helpful. I don't need any more holes to fix. Alright, so if you are using stretchy fabrics, sometimes you have a reason for that, and sometimes you need your seams to be stretchy too. Now it doesn't come up in this particular mending project, but it did come up in the waistband of the dress you'll see at the end. And so like if you just do your normal stitchy stitch, yeah, then it can only stretch to the length of the thread. Suddenly it's not nearly as stretchy, right? But if you have a particular seam or two that you need to be stretchy and you're willing to let it take a while, Then you create a goofy, sorry, this is just a couple scraps that I'm using to try and show this. You create a goofy, time-consuming sort of stitch where you go up and down, and up and down, bunches and bunches of time. This might be what searchers do, I honestly do not know. And now I have something that, well, looks like this on one side. Looks like that on the other, and even with the end secured, is super stretchy because all of the X's have more give in them than just the regular stitches, right? So that is what I do if I want the seam to be as stretchy as the fabric is. If you don't have a sewing machine or yours is temporarily incapacitated, it's a very nice option.
What?
Alright, bonus footage is books. This is Hey Sweetheart, yes. This is one I'm reading, which is a little bit about food and a lot about history, and it's nice because it's history that doesn't focus on what they covered in my school anyway. This is the other thing I'm reading, which is very thoughtfully written and very, very interesting. There we go. And this is what I wanted to show to you. This is a very interesting author and artist, and this is particular one is a collection of several of his books. The first one is, I mean, it's a kid's book, but it's really unusual, and the world being what it is. There, the red tree. I think everybody ought to have a copy. Oh, what are you doing, young lady? I cannot turn the page. I love you, but I cannot turn the page. There we go. Nope, nope, your butt. Your butt. You ridiculous beast. Oh, they can't see the words. Yes, you'll get scratches. Go. So, that's the end. Like I said, very unusual, but sometimes we need to feel better. It's worth having.